This conference will now be recorded.
Right. So in the last class, we created one table and we have created one constraint, what primary key constraint, and we was drop that particular constraint. So let me open the table. Let me connect to the HANA database. Right, it's connected. So what is our schema name? Gensoft HANA is the schema. Okay, and we have created one table. One of the table is what? Test EMP 12. Okay, so here if I open the definition of this table, this is the table we have created. Okay, so we have only not null constraint but no primary key constraint. Okay, do we have any data in this? Let me open. Yeah, we are having some data here. Okay, this is the data available. Okay, so let me try to query the constraints on this. So I'll open the SQL console. Okay, I'm opening the SQL console. Yeah, this is the SQL console open for which schema here, Anna. But I want to set this session for what? My own schema. So what to do? I'll say set schema. What is our schema? We have defined Gensoft Anna. Set schema Gensoft Anna, so that every time I need not prefix the object with what schema name. Let me execute this. Right, schema is what? Set. Right, schema is set. So I'll query for the constraints. So already I told yesterday, we have one view called as what? Constraints, system view called as what? Constraints. Okay. So let me query for that. So select start from, select start from. What is the view name? Constraints. It's a system view. Select start from constraints, where we have seen one column schema underscore name equal to what is that schema here? Gensoft Anna, and the table name equal to what is the table name? Test EMP 12. Test EMP 12. Let me execute. Right. So when I execute, it is not showing me any constraints. So you can observe here this view. You can see we have what something primary key constraint, unique constraint, and what check condition. Okay. So we don't have any constraints defined on that particular table. And if you see the data also, already we have the duplicate what employee number 5 here. So what is my requirement now is, on this existing table I want to impose the primary key constraint. Okay, so yesterday what we have seen, while creating the table only, okay, we are creating the table, and as part of the table, when we are creating the column, here we are saying what? Primary key. We are saying primary key. So if I say like this, what happens? Primary key constraint will be defined, and the constraint name will be proposed by what? SAP itself. The constraint name is proposed by SAP itself, and it will have the lengthy naming convention. Okay, it will have the lengthy naming convention. So again, I need to query in the constraints view to check what is the constraint name so that I can drop it in future. Okay, so what is my requirement now? On this table, we don't have any what primary key constraint. I want to impose the primary key constraints now. I want to impose the primary key constraint on the existing table. So what is the advantage now is, we can provide the user defined constraint name. So what I'll do is, yeah, here alter table, alter table. What is the table name? Test EMP 12. This is the table name. I will use the addition called as what? Add a constraint. Okay, alter table, table name, add constraint. Here you have to provide the what user defined constraint name. Okay, you can give any name. Let me try to give a meaningful name. So on which column you want to impose the primary key? EMP ID. So on this one, I want to impose the primary key constraint. So I'll say add constraint. Let me give a meaningful name EMP ID underscore what primary key. So by looking at this constraint name only, I should be able to understand that I have defined a primary key on this particular EMP ID. Then what constraint you want? Primary key constraint. Primary key. Then in the parenthesis, on which column you want to impose EMP ID. So by using the alter statement and by using the option add constraint, I can impose the what user defined constraint names. But here I believe it should not accept, because if you see the data here, already there is a duplicate employee ID. Okay, already there is a duplicate employee ID 5 here. Okay, so it should not allow me to impose the primary key constraint, because what is the concept of primary key constraint? It will not accept what duplicate entries. So this statement execution should fail now. Let me execute. I'll save it. Done. So good. You can see here I got an error here. What is the error I got? See, cannot create unique index. Okay, cannot create unique index. Duplicate key is found. Yeah, what is the further error here? Several documents with the same ID exist in the index one. So EMP ID content not unique, cannot define unique constraint. So actually we are trying to impose what? Primary key constraint, which is nothing but what? A unique constraint. So in order to impose this primary key constraint, I have to ensure that there are no duplicate entries. So already we are having what? Duplicate entry here. What is that? Employee ID. So let me delete the record where employee ID equal to 5. If I delete based on employee ID 5, it will delete what? Both the records. I don't want to delete both the records. I want to keep one of the entries. So let me try to use the delete statement by using where class and what employee name. So what is the employee name here? Ramesh 55. This record I want to delete. So I'll say here I'll say delete from what emp sorry delete from test emp12, delete from test emp12. If I leave it like this, it will delete all the records. So I'll say where employee name equal to what is the employee name we have seen? Ramesh 55. Done. Okay, Ramesh 55. Let me execute this. F8. It has deleted. What is the message I got? Rows affected is what? 1. If I preview the data here, if I refresh, F5, yeah, Ramesh 55 record got deleted. Now I can impose what? Primary key constraint. Okay, so let me just copy this once again. I can directly execute here, but since I'm going to send the notes and follow the same sequence, I'll execute this. Yeah, now you can see it have imposed the primary key constraint on that particular employee ID. So the above statement will define what primary key constraint on the employee ID column with a user defined constraint name. With a user defined constraint name. So let me check this where where I can check it in the constraints view. So let me execute this once again. Right, I'm trying to execute that F8. That. So you can observe now what is saying here constraint name is what emp id underscore primary key is primary key is what true, which is again what a unique constraint only na? So this is a user defined constraint name. Yesterday what happened, the constraint name is what lengthy naming convention sys underscore c000 something like that. Okay, so now what I can do, I can query the constraints on this and I can drop the constraint whenever I require. Okay, so now so we have seen how to what provide the user defined constraint name. Let me try to insert the data. Already how many records are there? There are the 5 records available. I'll say insert into what is the table name, test emp12. I'll provide some values. Value something 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 is there, so I'll say something 7, and I'll say Ramesh 5. Ramesh 5. So when I execute, it has successfully executed. So if you go and refresh, I'm able to insert the record with the employee ID what 7. Now let me provide only the employee ID without providing the employee name. Insert into test emp12. I want to provide only the employee ID. So whichever column you want to maintain the data, you mention the column name. Emp ID values. I'll say what 7 again. It should fail. It should fail because already we are having what employee ID with what 7. So when I execute, yes, it is failing. What is the error I got? Unique constraint violated. Primary key is nothing but what? Unique constraint. So this is failed. Let me try to insert. I'll try to insert what? 8. It should allow me. It should allow me to insert. Yes, it has inserted. So if you go back and refresh, then it has inserted. It has inserted the null value for what? Employee name. So yesterday we had the issue. What is that? When you're trying to insert null value, okay, it should not accept, right? So here I'll try to insert null value, insert into test emp12. I'll provide the value only for what employee name. So what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to provide null value for the employee ID. So I'll say something Pawan. Sorry. Uh, Okay, so I'm trying to provide null value for employee ID. When I execute, good. I got an error what cannot insert null or update to what null because primary key is a combination of what combination of what unique constraint and what not null constraint. So this is also working fine. Okay, so yesterday what happened is I have what was the issue yesterday?
Yesterday
Yes,
we have removed the
primary
constraint
key.
of primary key and trying to insert null value.
Hmm. It is
But
not accepting. Na?
yeah, null is into X mark, but we are unable
Yeah,
to delete it or we
correct,
are
correct.
unable
Yeah,
to
yeah,
do it
yeah,
remove it.
yeah. Correct, correct. I have not checked that issue. Anyone tried that one?
No, no, no.
Okay, so
Yeah,
give me one more day time. I have not tried. I was busy, so let me try
yeah,
it
yeah.
today. Okay.
Sure, sure.
Now, based on this, so yesterday we had that issue. What was that issue is, I have deleted the primary key constraint. So our understanding was, whenever I delete the primary key constraint, it should delete both unique constraint as well as not null constraint. So what it has done is, it has deleted only the unique constraint. It is accepting the duplicate values, but still it is not accepting the what null values. Okay, it is not accepting the null values even after removing what primary key constraint. That was the issue. Okay, so we'll come back to that. Now what I'll do is, already in the last session or before that we have seen how to create a table based on what existing table. So what I did, create table name as select star from so and so. Okay, right? So by default, it is going to copy the table with the data. If you don't want with data, you are saying what with no data. We can also achieve the same thing. We can also achieve the same thing by using what like operator. Before that, if I execute this, yeah. Now my requirement is okay. This table has got what primary key constraint. So my requirement is I want to create one more table based on this existing table using what like operator. So let me check it here. Simple, very simple. Create column table. EMP12 is over now, so I'll give it as test EMP13. Okay, like what test EMP12. Okay, so simply I'm using what like operator. Create column table test EMP13 like test EMP12. Let me execute this. Yeah, the table got created. Table got created. Now let me check whether the data is copied or not. Okay, so let me refresh here. The table is created. Okay, so if you open the definition of that, table is created. Okay, you can observe here even what primary key constants are also what copied. Now I want to check whether data is copied or not. So I'll right click on this again. Also open data preview. Yeah, what happened? It has not copied the data. It has not copied the data. So now what I'll do is let me create one more table. So by default it is not copying the data. I'll create one more table. Create column table. Test emp 13 is over now. So I'll give it as 14 like so and so. Okay, and use the addition what with the data. So what is the change? It will copy what? Yeah, we will create a new table along with the data. So when I execute this, then it might have created that. Let me refresh. Okay, it has created the table. So if you observe this, if you open the definition, yes, it has created the table along with the constraints. Let me preview for the data. Right click on this, open data preview. Yes, data is also what copied. Data is also copied. Done. So this is another way of creating the table based on what existing table. Okay, there is no advantage disadvantage. I can go for earlier syntax or I can go for what this syntax either by using like operator or I can use what select statement. Okay, the advantage of that syntax is here what happens is all the columns will be copied. Here all the columns of existing table will be copied to what the new table. But if you see the earlier syntax, I have said something like this. What is that? Create column table, create column table so and so. As if I say select star from so existing table, what happens? It will create the new table with all the columns of what existing table. So here the advantage of this syntax is I may not be interested in all the columns. So I would have said what the columns, something like this. This is the only advantage of this particular syntax. But this syntax, what it will do, it will copy the complete definition. I don't have the provision to select the what specific columns. The complete table structure will be copied as it is if you are using what like operator. If you are using this syntax, either I can copy all the entire definition or only what specific columns. That is the only change. Okay, right now here I'll say okay, this is my what test emp12 now. So let me 1 second please. Let me close everything. Sandeep, I'll answer your query. Just hold on. Yeah. So let me execute this once again. F8. So what is the constraint name here? Emp id underscore primary key. So we have used what like operator. We have used a like operator, and we understood that even the constraints are also what copied. So I want to check whether the constraint name is same or not. Select start from constraint where schema name equal to so and so, table name equal to what? Test emp 13. Test emp 13, right? 13 and 14 both are there. So I'm going for 13. When I execute, good. Yeah, what happened here? See, constraints are copied, but what happened here? The constraint name is proposed by what? SAP itself. Good point, Sandeep. So, understood. Actually, the constraint name earlier was what? Where is that? The constraint name earlier is something what emp id. Okay, emp id underscore what primary key. Emp id underscore primary key. So constraint is copied, but SAP has not copied the same constraint name. Instead, it has proposed what? A new constraint name. Sandeep, hope it's clear. So it has proposed a new constraint name, not the same constraint name. Yeah. Yeah. For others, is it clear to everyone? The difference between like operator and this syntax. This syntax allows us to either select all the columns or specific columns. This syntax will copy the entire definition of what? Source table into the target table. Any questions?
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now what I'll do is, so yesterday we had a issue. What was that issue? We have created the primary key constraint, and we understood that primary key is a combination of unique constraint and what? Unique constraint and what? Not null constraint. Okay. And then what we did, we have removed that, we have dropped that particular primary key constraint. So when I dropped the primary key constraint, it was accepting the unique values because we have removed the primary key constraint. But it has not removed that not null functionality. Now I'll do one thing. I'll try to create a one more table separately with not null constraint and primary key constraint. Actually, technically, if you take other databases, if you create the primary key constraint, it is a combination of what? It is a combination of what? Both. What is that? Not null constraint and unique constraint. Okay. Yeah. May I know who is this logged in just now? Venkat Ramna Reddy. Hello. Yeah. Just now logged in by name Venkat Ramna Reddy Erwa. May I know who is this? Hello. Hello. Yes. May I know who is this logged in just now by name Venkata Ramna Reddy Erwa. And one more person by name Venkat Acharyalu. Hello.
It's me, sir, Kaushik Venkatacharya.
Kaushik. Kaushik, why do you log in with different names here every time? Hmm?
I am logging with the same name, sir, Venkatacharya.
No, but it is displayed as Venkat Acharya. Okay, fine. Yeah, what about the other guy, Venkat Ramna Reddy Erwa?
I don't know, sir.
Hello. Yeah, one more person logged in by name Venkat Ramna Reddy Erwa. Hello.
He changed the name to Sudhakar.
Ah, Sudhakar. Ah, okay. Sudhakar. Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. I know Sudhakar. Right. So we have seen, okay, we have seen how to create the parameter. Now let me, what I'll try to do now is I'll create one more table, okay, with separately with what not null and primary key constraint on the same column. But in other database, it doesn't make sense. If you create the primary key, it will create what both. So let me try this also, then we can have the answer on that. Create column table. I can give any name. I'll give it as something test underscore emp. Okay. Create column table test underscore emp. I'll give the column name as emp id, integer, not null, and what? Primary key. Actually, in other databases, it is sufficient if I say like this. It will create both not null and what? Unique constraint. But here, let me try out this also. I'm separately adding not null constraint as well as what? Primary key constraint. Done. Then I'll give another column employee name, varchar of something what 20. That's it. Okay, so this is a table I created. Let me execute. What is the error I got? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should not give semicolon. No, here. For the last column, I should not give any semicolon here. Okay, so just leave it blank. Try to execute. Yeah, the table is what created. So if I refresh, yes, the table is created. Test underscore what emp. Let me close this. The test underscore emp is created. Let me open the definition here. Yeah, so same thing. Earlier also when I create the primary key, both the checkboxes were there. Primary key checkbox and this not null the selection is there. Okay. So now I created them separately. Let me, yeah, let me try to query the constraint now. Just I want to check whether it has proposed two different constraints or only one constraint. Select star from constraint where schema name equal to so and so. What is the table name? Test underscore what emp. Test underscore emp done. Let me execute this F8. Yeah, only one. Only one. So earlier also only one, now also only one. Okay. Now also only one. But so there is no meaning in this. So if you simply add primary key also, anyway it will propose only what? One constraint. Okay. I'll do one thing. Here I'll say alter table. Alter table. What is the table name? Test underscore emp. Alter table test underscore emp. Drop what primary key. Yesterday what we did, we said what drop constraint followed by what constraint name. Here I'll try to use the other syntax. Alter table name drop. Simply I'll say what primary key. Okay, so when I execute, yes, it might have altered the table. Let me query. Once again I'll query the same thing. F8. Yeah, it has removed that. So what I'm trying to say is yesterday we have dropped that primary key constraint by using what? Drop constraint followed by constraint name. Here I will simply say drop primary key. So it will remove the primary key constraint on the table. Excuse me. I'll refresh this table now. I'm refreshing this table test underscore emp. Yeah, it has removed that primary key, but still you can observe not null is as it is. Not null is as it is. Okay. I'll do one thing whether this syntax is supported. Let me check. Alter table so and so. Drop. I'll say not. I don't think it is there, but let me try again. Alter table and drop not null. F8 no. Incorrect syntax near not. So this syntax is not available. I can only drop the primary key directly like this. Okay. Now what I'll do is we'll come back to the not null issue. Okay. So now on this existing column, I want to add what? One more column. Okay. Sorry, on this existing table, I want to add one more column. Okay. So series, I'll say alter table. Let me give the table name as something same table because I want to add in that table only. Test underscore emp. Add. Okay. Alter table name. Add. Okay. So here in the parentheses, different databases will have different syntaxes. Okay, so alter table name add. Let me give the column name as something employee or employee salary and set employee salary. I'll give the data type as something decimal. Just like we have double data type in our normal ABAP, we have decimal here. decimal of what? 15 comma 2. So overall 15 places. Out of 15 places, the last two are reserved for what? A decimal place. That is the understanding. Okay, so let me check it. Alter table name, add new column name followed by its corresponding data type. Okay, so let me execute this. Yeah, it has added the new column. Let me refresh the definition. Done. Yeah, you can see here employee salary decimal of what? 15 comma 2. Internal data type is what? Fixed itself. Okay. Here the internal data type for varchar is what? String. Here integer means it is nothing but int. These are all internal data types here. So we will not worry about that. We are concerned about the SQL data type. So we are able to add the what? Column. Can I modify? Can I not modify? I want to what? uh, change this size. 15 comma 2 is there. I want to change it to something 20 comma 2. Okay, so I want to modify the what? The number of decimal positions. So it's an alter table. What is the table name? Test underscore emp. Now I have to use what? Alter command. Alter command. Okay, alter. What is the column name? Emp sal only. Emp sal. I'll say decimal of what is the earlier one? 15 comma 2. Now I'll say this is something 19 comma 2. Okay, 19 comma 2. Let me check the syntax. Alter table name. Alter so and so decimal. So yes, Samir. In case of a normal ABAP, primary key columns should be at the beginning of the table, but here it is not mandatory. But the general recommendation is key fields should always be at the beginning, but it will not give any error. In case of our SC level in ABAP, primary key column should be at the beginning of the table, but here any column can be made as what? Primary key. It need not be the at the beginning of the table. So when I execute this, when I say F8, yeah, what happened here? It might have modified the size of that. So let me check that. Earlier it is something 15 comma 2. I'll try to refresh. Yeah, it is changed to what? 19 comma 2. That working fine. I want to drop this column. Okay, how to drop it? Alter table name test underscore what? EMP. I'll say drop. What is the column name? EMP Sala. Drop EMP. Sorry. Drop EMP Sal. Okay, let me try to execute this. It is giving an error. Incorrect syntax here. So and so line 1, column 29. Somewhere here it is giving the error. Okay, understood? Somewhere here. So with the syntactical error, I'll try to use parenthesis. Okay, let me execute this. F8. Yeah, it has dropped the column. So I have to give the parenthesis here. So if you go back and check the definition, yeah, it has been removed. So if you take other databases, the syntax is slightly different. If you know Oracle, in case of Oracle database at the SQL prompt, we'll say alter table name, drop column name, drop column name. Here the syntax is slightly different. Okay, done. Now what I'll do is, yeah, what is the doubt? No, Sandeep. Columns are always added then. Actually, first of all, we should not bother about the position of the column. No? We should bother about whether they are able to maintain the data or not. No, we can't. We can't. By using the SQL statement, I cannot add the column at the specific position. If you are adding the column by using the SQL statement, okay, it will always add at the end only. Not possible. First of all, there is no advantage. No? What is the reason why we have to add the column at the specific position? Anyhow, whether it is at the first position or at the last position, data will be maintained. Okay, end user is more worried about the data, not the position of the column. Okay, when you're developing the report, if you want to show that column as the first column, you try to retrieve in that sequence. That is our wish. That is in the select statement, we can control that. But in the table, it will always be added at the end only. Yeah, in SC11, yes, I can add the column at anywhere. Okay, I can insert a blank row, and then I can do it. Okay, but here it will always add at the end of the thing, end of the table. Acha. Okay, so what you are saying is you want to uh, okay. So what you are saying is initially you might have created the table with some primary keys. Later on, you want to you are creating some more columns, and you want to make the primary key as a combination like composite key. Composite key. Yes, we can, we can. Just same thing, same syntax. Earlier we discussed the alter table name, alter table name. Where is that? Add constraint. I've shown you know. Yeah, here. Okay, alter table name, add constraint, so and so. Primary key, emp id, comma, the other column. It's a combination. Separate the columns with what? Comma. The same syntax, but you have to separate the columns with what? Comma. Alter table name, add constraint, so and so. Primary key, emp id, comma, other column. Like that, we can add up to 16 columns. We can add up to what? 16 columns. Okay, that is
Sir,
called as a
for every operations for deleting, adding, and modifying, and adding constant, we use alter table statement only, sir.
no, no. When you are modifying the definition of the table, we use alter statement. When I say definition, when
Okay.
you're adding the when you're adding the constraint, or when you're dropping the existing column, or when you're modifying the data type, when you are what renaming the column, at that time you have to use alter. When you're dealing with the data, okay, we
Okay.
use the normal DML statements like insert, update, and
Okay.
delete. Alter is
Okay.
only for definition, not for the data. Okay, right. Now, so we have seen what primary key constraint. Okay, now let me try to go for another type of constraint called as foreign key constraint. Okay, so foreign key constraint. We have this foreign key constraint concept in our normal ABAP also. If you want to maintain the relationship between the two tables, if you want to maintain the relationship between the two tables, okay, we'll go for what? Foreign key constraint. So here also we create the foreign key relationship between the two tables to maintain what? Data consistency between the tables. Okay, the prerequisite for creating the foreign key, before that, what is the prerequisite to create the foreign key relationship in our normal ABAP in SC11? Yes, I want to create the foreign key relationship between the two tables in our normal ABAP. What is the prerequisite? Yes, everyone is from ABAP background. What is the prerequisite?
Field should be a primary key, and the domain should also be in the same way.
Yeah. So the prerequisite for creating the foreign key there should be at least two fields. There should be at least one field which is having the common domain between the two tables. There should be at least one field which is having the common domain. Okay, that is the prerequisite. And another point is in one of the table, the common field we generally take it as what? Primary key, and on the other table we create what? Foreign key, and that table we call it as a child table. So here also, here we don't have a domain concept. So here the prerequisite for creating the foreign key relationship between the two tables is there should be at least one logically related field, with the same data type. Okay, in the sense field name will not be same, but the technical properties of the field should be same. When I say technical properties, I'm referring to a data type. And in one of the table, the logically related field should be what? primary key, and this table we consider as what parent table, and on the other table we create what foreign key. We create the foreign key, and that table we call it as what foreign key table, or we call it as a child table. And here the concept is slightly different. In the sense, if you compare with the normal ABAP context, here it is slightly different. When you are creating the foreign key constraint, we can use some additions like on delete cascade or on delete restrict. Okay, so if you are not using those options, by default you'll take it as what on delete restrict. Okay, so let me cover that practical, then you'll understand. Do we have any employee table department? No. Okay, so quickly what I'll do is I'll try to create one table. Let's try to understand. Yeah, I'll say create table. Create table. Sorry, I'll go for column table. Create column table. Let me give the table name as what? Department. Any name. Create column table department. Then I'll give some columns here. Let me give it as department number. I'll give the date type as integer. I'll go for what? Primary key. Primary key. And I'll take another column like department name. Let me take it as what? Something varchar of what? 20. Varchar of 20. Close the column. That's all. Okay. Let me create this table. F8. The table would be created. Okay. I'll create another table. Create column table. Do we have employee? No. So I'll create a table called as what? Employee. Create table. Create column table employee. Then here I'll say what? EMP ID. EMP ID. I'll take this as some primary key. Done. And I'll take another column like employee name. I'll take it as varchar of something 20. And here I'll take the column name as a D number integer. D number integer. So see here in the department table, what is the column which is going to store the department number? This one in a DPT number. In the employee table also, I'll take one column called as D number, which is responsible for storing the department number. So wantedly, I gave different column name. Here it is a DPT number, here it is a D number. Here also I can give DPT number, but again, we think that the column name should be same, but not the same. Okay, that's the reason I'm giving what different name. So now what I want is I want to establish the relationship between these two tables. So what I'll do here I have to say what foreign key foreign key foreign key which column department number references what is the existing table department yeah references department what is the column in that where you want to link department number then here I'll say yeah here I'll say 1 second please 1 second. Where is that? Yeah, department number on sorry on delete what is that option cascade on delete cascade done and I'll close the table. That's all. So if I don't use on delete cascade, for example, assume that I don't delete what on delete cascade. If I don't use on delete cascade, it will take it as on delete restrict. So what is this restrict and what is this cascade? We'll understand shortly. By default it is not on delete restrict. Okay, but here I don't want on delete restrict. I am going for what on delete cascade. Let me check the syntax. Employee ID, employee name, department number, foreign key D number, references, department number, on delete cascade. Let us create the table. Fh done. The table is what created. So if I refresh, can see both the tables are created, employee table and department table. Okay, so I have linked this particular tables. What is the logically related field between the two tables? DPT number, na? Here it is DPT number, here it is D number. Where I created the foreign key in the employee table. So this table I call it as child table, or we call it as foreign key table. And this table is what? The primary table, or I can say parent table. Okay. And what is the other field is in one of the table, the common field, the logically related field should be what? Primary key. So this is nothing but the parent table now, and this is now foreign key table. Okay, done. So what this on delete cascade will do is, yeah, on delete cascade means it will ensure that corresponding rows of the foreign key table gets deleted automatically whenever the corresponding parent row of the parent table is deleted. Okay, whenever I say on delete cascade, what happens is if you try to delete any record from the department table, which is the parent table, if I try to delete any record from the parent table, it will check whether any dependent child records are there in the foreign key table. If there are any records, it will delete those child records from the foreign key table automatically. Automatically. Am I clear? That is the concept of what? On delete cascade. Hope it's clear. On delete restrict means reverse. In the sense, it will not allow us to delete the child records. It will not allow us to delete the parent record when there are what? Child records. So first let us focus on what? On delete cascade only. So now the link is established between what? Two tables. Now what I will do is quickly I'll maintain some data in my parent table. What is the parent table here? Department. Insert into department values, uh, department number and department name. So I'll set 10. I'll give some data. I'll maintain some data. Insert into so so I'll department number is the primary key there now. So I'll be 20, 30, and what? 40. Let me give different department names. I'll give it as Oracle. I'll give it as something what? Java. I'll give this as something what? BW. Right. So 4 records I'm trying to insert. F8. Yeah. 4 records got inserted. Let me preview the data in the department table. Yeah, we have the 4 records 10, 20, 30, 40. Now I'll try to insert the record in what? The child table. So I'll say insert into what is the table name here? Employer. Insert into employee. Okay, values. How many columns are there? 3 columns. Employee ID, employee name, and department number. I'll give the employee ID as 1. I'll give the employee name as something Raju. I'll give the department number as what? 50. Okay. It should not allow me to insert this record. It should not allow me to insert this record because there is no what? There is no corresponding parent record in the parent table. What is the common field between the two tables? DPT number here, D number here. So I'm trying to maintain 50 for D number. It will check whether 50 is available in the parent table. It is not there, so it should restrict me. When I execute, when I say effect, good. Yeah. Good, good. What is the error I got? See, foreign key constraint violation, Trex update failed on the table, row locking failed on the reference table, expected row locks 1 but process row locks 0. So it is not allowing me to what? Insert the record because there is no corresponding parent record in the parent table. So this is understood. Now I'll maintain the data. I'll maintain different data here. Okay, I'll give the employee numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4, and what? 5. I'll give the employee names as Raju is Raju 1, Raju 2, Raju 3, Raju 4, Raju 5. And let me give the department numbers as 10, 20, 10, 20. I'll give this as 30, and this I'll give again 10. This I'll give again 30. So it should allow me to insert this 5 records, because what are the department numbers I'm trying to maintain? 10, 20, 30. 2 records in 10 department number, 2 records in 30, and 1 record in what? 20. So when I execute this, let me select and execute F8. Right, all the 5 records might be inserted. Let me query the data. Here I'll query the data in the employee table. Yes, all the 5 records are what? Inserted. Now what I'll do is, yeah, in the department table we have any department number 10. Yes, we have department number 10. Okay. 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 Done. So if you see this one here, in the department table, what constraint I define? In the department table, I defined what constraint? Primary key constraint. In the employee table, I defined two constraints. One is primary key constraint on the employee ID, and what? Foreign key constraint. Okay. So what I'll do is, I want to what? Check this constraint. So I'll say select star from, try to understand. Select star from, what is the system view we know? Constraints. No? Select star from constraints, where schema underscore name equal to what is the schema in our case? Gensoft HANA, and what? Table underscore name equal to what is the table name? Employee. Okay. So what is my expectation now? On the employee table, we have two constraints. One is primary key constraint, another is what? Foreign key constraint. So I want to check whether the two constraints are displayed or not. Okay, so let me execute this. Good. Okay. Right. So if you analyze this one, it is showing me only the primary key constraint. Actually, employee table has got two constraints. One is primary key constraint, another is what? Foreign key constraint. But this constraints view, it is holding the information related to what? Only normal constraint. When I say normal constraint, I mean to say primary key constraint, unique constraint, and what? Not null constraint. Not null constraint. So what is my requirement now? I want to check the foreign key constraint. So what I'll do here, the change I'll do is, see the change. Select star from, there is another view, system view. What is that? Referential underscore constraints. Let me check the spelling. Referential underscore constraints, where schema name equal to Gensoft HANA and table name equal to employee. Let me execute this. I'll say F8. I'm executing that. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Now you can see. So referential underscore constraints. Okay. Referential underscore constraint. What it will do? It will hold the information about what? Foreign key. So you can see here. Table name is employee. What is the column name here? D number. And this is the constraint name proposed by SAP itself. What is the reference table here? Department. Reference table is department. And reference column name is what? DEPT number. So what is the difference between this view and this view is, this view will hold the information of the normal constraints, primary key constraint, unique constraint, and not null constraint. And this referential underscore constraints will hold what? The information related to what? Foreign key constraints. Okay, done. Yeah. So what is the point we understood here? When I'm trying to insert the department number 15 in the employee table, it is not allowing me, because there is no corresponding parent record in the department table. Okay. Now what I'll do is, what is that option I used? On delete cascade. Na? What is the concept of on delete cascade? Whenever we delete any parent record, the corresponding child record should be deleted. That is the meaning of what? On delete cascade. So if you see department table, we have 4 records, 10, 20, 30, 40. Employee table has got some 5 records. Out of these 5 records, there are 2 records who belong to department number what? 10. So 2 child rows are there related to 10. So what I will do now is we are trying to understand the meaning of what? On delete cascade. On delete cascade means whenever we try to delete the parent record, it will also delete the corresponding child rows in the child table. So I'll say delete from what is the table name department. Delete from department where what department number equal to what 10, department number equal to 10. So I'm deleting from department table. So when I'm deleting from the parent table, it will check whether any dependent records are there in the child table. So when I say F8, okay, so if you go and check the department table, it is successfully executed. If you see the department table, I'm sorry, what I gave 10 only, no? Yeah, I gave 10, yeah. So if I refresh this, if I refresh, any of 10 got deleted from the department table. If you see the employee table, earlier we have 10. I'll refresh now. What happened? The employees who belongs to department number 10 got deleted. That is the concept of what? On delete cascade. On delete cascade means whenever we try to delete a record from the parent table, if there are any corresponding dependent child records are there in the foreign key table, they get deleted automatically. Okay. Now what I'll do is let me remove the foreign key constraint. I'll remove the foreign key constraint. So for removing the foreign key constraint, I should know the constraint name now. So let me execute this once again. I'm executing this once again. Yeah, this is the foreign key constraint name. Let me make a copy of this. Okay, this is my what? Foreign key constraint name. So what is my requirement now? I want to delete the foreign key constraint. So already we know how to delete the constraint. So what I'll do, alter table. What is the table name? Employer. Foreign key is available on the employee table only. Drop constraint. Alter table name. Alter table name. Drop constraint. Let me delete that. This is my foreign key constraint. Done. Okay. Done. Execute this. I'm dropping the constraint. So when I say F8, constraint might have been dropped. Okay. Let me cross check that. I'll execute this query once again. When I say F8, yeah, now it is not showing me any foreign key constraint. So now what I want to add the foreign key constraint now. Earlier, we have created the foreign key constraint while creating the table itself. Okay. While creating the table itself. Now I want to create it separately. Actually, now there is no foreign key constraint now. So what I'll try to do now, I'll try to delete 30. If I refresh, I'll try to delete 30 from the department table. Do we have any parent corresponding records here? Yes, related to this employee, we have 2 records with 30. Na? Okay, this should not be deleted because there is no foreign key relationship. Earlier we had foreign key relationship with on delete cascade. Now there is no foreign key itself. So if I delete from department, it should delete only from department, not from the child. Okay, let us cross check that quickly. So here I'll say department number equal to what 13. I am deleting from department table. When I say F8, yes. Okay, it might have deleted. Check the department table. If I refresh, yes, it got deleted from the department. If you see the employee table, if I refresh, no, it has not deleted because there is no foreign key relationship. Now what I'll do, I'll try to what create the foreign key now separately. So how to create? See the advantage of this technique. I can propose my own constraint name. Earlier, the constraint name was system defined. Now I'll say alter table. What table? Employer. Alter table employee. I'll say add. No, we don't have that concept, Sandeep here. We have that cardinality concept in our ABAP. Here we don't have that cardinality concept. Instead, we have this on delete cascade and on delete restrict. Right? Okay. There it was UI. Okay, so I can give that cardinality when you're creating the foreign key or SC11. Here we don't have that. We have only on delete cascade and on delete restrict. Okay, so alter table name. What is this? Add constraint. Add constraint. We can give any name. Let me give meaningful name. F key underscore what? EMP underscore department. F key underscore EMP underscore department. What is that you want? Foreign key. Foreign key. Foreign key. What is the column in the employee table? D number. D number. Then I'll say what is that? References. References. What is the parent table here? Department. The parent table is department. References department. What is the column in that? DPT number. DPT number. Now I'll say on delete restrict. Earlier we have seen on delete cascade. Now I'll say on delete restrict. Yeah, on delete restrict. Done. So on delete restrict means earlier when I say on delete cascade, when you try to delete from the parent table, automatically child records got deleted. Here, if there are any child records, it should not allow me to delete the parent record. So I'm trying to create the foreign key. I'm trying to create the foreign key now. I believe it should not allow me because simple reason is uh, yeah. If you see the department table, we have what 20 and 40 here. 20 and 40. We don't have 30. We don't have 30 here. But if you take the employee table, we have the records with 30 now. So it should not allow me to what? Create the foreign key because there are some child rows where there is no corresponding parent record. Okay, let me check it now. F8. Good. Good. What is the error I got? Feature not supported. Referential constraint violated by existing value. Okay, so why it is not allowing me to create means we have 30 in the employee table. There is no corresponding parent record in what? Parent table. So what I'll do if you want to create the foreign key now, let me delete the employees from the employee table whose employee number is what? 30. Okay, so that it should allow me. Let me check. Here I'll say delete from what? Which table? Delete from employee. Delete from employee where D number where D number equal to 30. So two records should get deleted from the employee table. When I say affect, yes, rows affected is what 2. So if you go back and check the employee table, 30 would be deleted. Done. Okay, and this is my current department table. Now I think I can create what? Foreign key relationship between these two tables. So let me re-execute this. I am re-executing. F8. Yeah, foreign key relationship is not created. Foreign key relationship is created. Let me check the referential constraints view. Select start from referential underscore constraint. When I execute, yeah, we can see F key underscore EMP underscore one department is my foreign key constraint name. Done. Now what I'll do, let us try to understand. Let us try to understand what? On delete restrict. So what I'll do is in the department table we have 20. Do we have any dependent records in the employee table? Yes, we have 20. So earlier what happened when I tried to delete the record from the department table, automatically the dependent child rows got deleted because we had on delete cascade. Now I said on delete restrict. Na? So what it will do, it will check the existence of what? Child rows in the foreign key table. If you have any dependent record, it should not allow me to what? Delete. It should not allow me to delete. So what I'll do here, I'll say delete from which table? Department table. Delete from department. Delete from department. Department where D number equal to 20. Yeah. Yeah. If you take this, sorry, not D number, department
E.
number. Yeah. So in the department table, the column name is department. 20 is there, 40 is there. Do you have any dependent child records here? Yes, we have one dependent child record. It should not allow me to delete because there are dependent child records. So when I execute, let's say F8, good. What is the message it is showing here? See, failed on update or delete by foreign key constraint with error. On update, delete action failed on referencing tables also. So blah blah blah. The meaning of this is because of on delete restrict. On delete restrict means it will check whether any corresponding dependent child rows are available in the foreign key table. If they are available, it will not allow us to delete. Okay. If it is on delete cascade, the moment you delete from the parent table, all the dependent child records from the foreign key table also gets what? Deleted. Gets deleted. Okay. Now let me quickly drop the constraint. I'll quickly drop the constraint. What is the constraint name was? FK underscore EMP underscore department. Na? So I'll say just alter table name, alter table name, drop constraint. What is the constraint name? FK underscore EMP underscore what? Department. So I'm dropping the foreign key constraint. So when I execute, it might have dropped. Let me query now. When I execute, yes, there are no foreign key constraint. Now I'll try to delete 20 from department table. There are corresponding child records also, but it should allow me to delete because there is no foreign key constraint between the tables now. So I'll say department number equal to 20. When I execute, rows affected is what? 1. When I see the department table, yes, if I refresh, it got deleted from the department table. If you see the employee table, it is still available because there is no link between the two tables. This is the concept of what? Foreign key constraints. Any questions? Please ask me. Any questions? Akshay, Kishore, Karthik, Jagat,
No, sir.
others, Srilakshmi, Sriram, Sudhakar, Sudhanshu, Kaushik, Sandeep, Sai, Siddharth. You joined late.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, any questions, others? Okay, so I'll wind off for today. So I believe yesterday I've shared the vendor details. Yesterday night I got the details. I've shared the vendor details. So if you are interested, you can contact them and take the server and rental access. Okay, and start practicing. Okay, so tomorrow we'll see other features in this particular SQL. Okay, and try to get the solution for that. What is that? When you delete the foreign key, sorry, when you delete the primary key, it is not deleting the feature of not null. So if you have time, just try it. I'll also try. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sure. So I'll wind off. We'll continue tomorrow.
Bye.